again, let's use our model and this time try to develop metrics, formulas, and see some examples. Why do we need all these metrics and formulas? I think answer is obvious. We want to see clear picture of our entire system. And all these metrics and formulas are helping us to see how our system, our model is performing by measuring safety, items, reliability, aircraft economics. We can continue this list, right? At the critical points of the system. You can ask question. How we can identify all these critical points? And the answer is based on our experience. You can ask another question. What about if we don't have experience? We have brand new aircraft or just started the airline. Then we're gonna start from basics. I think since we are in flight business, we all agree that takeoff, flight, and landing, those items are really critical for our business. Here we can also add the aviation authorities requirements, and later on we can continue this list based on our experience. By the way, this question brought us to the first step of our today's subject, which is metrics and formulas. First step is how to identify critical points, or I call it reliability experience items. The reason why I'm calling reliability experience items because we're gonna build all this development here today based on Markov's model. So we're gonna start, right? We're gonna use as example these 3 points: takeoff, flight, and landing. The next step is all about metrics. And before we move forward, but I would like to mention that since all these presentations are for beginners, I'm going to discuss different versions of all these metrics, formulas, and combinations and examples. Just to understand what is the idea behind all these metrics, formulas, and examples, and what's the differences also. Highlight some interesting differences. Anyway, number 1, dispatch interruption or dispatch reliability. I think it is clear. Here, dispatch interruption, right? If we are using interruption, what we are saying here, we are just counting how many times we had the problem during dispatch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can continue this. Opposite side, it's dispatch reliability. It answers question, how reliable is our dispatch? And if dispatch reliability is 100%, then interruption is 0. Same applies to flight, mission interruption flight, mission interruption, flight reliability. So how many times we had a problem with flight, or how reliable is our flight, right? And same applies to the landing, mission interruption rate, mission completion rate. So here is the takeoff, dispatch, flight, landing. So we covered all this production cycle. Now, step number 3, we need to identify contributors. I'm using here also word function. The reason why I'm doing, because we're gonna discuss about formulas, right? Describe some formulas, and to be close to the math, I'm using also word function. So what is the function of dispatch or contributors? Definitely number 1, it is time. I think we agree all, right? Dispatch time, takeoff time. Then mission interruption ground items, delay cancellations, PIREP, definitely, yes, mission interruption ground, right? PIREP, availability, auto service, etc., etc., etc. We can continue this list. Flight, again, time can have impact, mission interruption ground item can have impact, and by all means, mission interruption flights includes in-flight shutdown, ground turn back, diversions, etc., etc., etc. PIREPs and other items based on our experience and aviation authorities' requirements. Landing, mission interruption ground, mission interruption flight, arrival time, PIREPS, etc., etc. What I would like to mention here that we need to have clear understanding what we are using, how we are using, why we are using. We don't want to build here something complex. Let's take removals, right? Sometimes you can see that airline has, let me put this way, removal can be part of delay cancellations, mission interruption ground items, or out of service. Kind of sub-contributor, REM, right? And then you can see not too much information about removals. On the other side, I put this way here, right? We can have some problem with removals, some issues with removals, and we can see as a standalone contributors, and we can have good information about removals, including not only the simple graphs in the first case, right here, this case, and it's sub contributor, but also explanations. Why part was removed, and then root cause analysis. And number 3, we have real big problem with removals, and we can have standalone removals report. Very small information in general reliability report, but huge, maybe 50, 60, 100 pages in removal reports, standalone removal reports. It is very important, as I said, what we want, to understand what we want, how we want, and most important, why we are doing this. We don't want to build the complex system, but at the same time, we need to have clear picture of our entire system, entire model. Next step, expression formulas. Dispatch reliability equals 1 minus delay plus cancellation divided scheduled departure, multiply 100%. Let's do some physical check. Delay 0, cancellation 0, 0 divide scheduled departure gives us 0, 1 minus 0, 1, multiply 100%, it is 100%. Flight interruption rate, mission interruption flight, divide total flight cycles, multiply 100 departures. As you can see, in denominator, first case, we are using scheduled departures. In the second case, we are using total flight cycles. To be different, right? And standardization, first case based on percentage, second case is based on 100 departures. A little bit different approach, different version. Mission interruption rate, mission interruption ground plus mission interruption flight divides scheduled flight, and I'm using here some limitations, adding arrival time more than 15 minutes. What does it mean? It means that, let's say, scheduled landing, arrival is 9:00. We arrived 9:10, right? But we are saying that actually we are not going to investigate this late arrival, 10-minute late arrival. Definitely, we can have this in the system, but we are not going to investigate it. Let's say we landed 9:17. Then we're going to say, hey, you know what? That's exactly what we want to understand. We need to investigate why we were this 17 minutes late. But I would like to mention in general, right? We have to be very careful what we are using, how we are using, when we are using, why we are using. Even I'm using here this industry like brackets or quotation mark standard formulas, right? But we cannot use it blindly. So what is good for airline A, it does not automatically mean that it's going to be good for airline B. We have to be very careful. We need to understand what we are doing. Anyway, before we move to the next slide, I would like to remind you that all metrics and formulas are for reference use only. Now let's move to the next page, next slide, and see some metrics. Very self-explanatory, very general, nothing complex. But you can see I highlighted here some metrics. By the way, metrics are in alphabetical order, right? Highlighted some metrics. Reason why I did it because I highly recommend to include these metrics, highlighted metrics in your reliability report. Dispatch reliability. Let's start from dispatch reliability. I think it is clear, right? We want to see what's happening here. Right? Mission completion rate, mission interruption rate, schedule completion rate, schedule interruption rate. It covers all these items here. See, the reason why I just highlighted these two items because schedule completion is more focused on revenue flights, more revenue flights oriented. When mission completion, it includes revenue flights, non-revenue flights, ferry flights, etc., etc. Now, saying that, let me give you here again interesting explanation. Saying that, sometimes you can see airline A, airline B, right? They are using same name, let's say schedule completion rate, but completely different formulas with completely different meanings. And vice versa. They can use same formula, same meaning, exactly similar meaning, but different names. Okay? Happens sometimes. Anyway, on-time performance. Sometimes you can see, hey, do you know what company says? Okay, this is good, takeoff is good, flight reliability is good, landing is good, but I would like actually know what's happening in this point. And then if my scheduled arrival is 9:00 and my aircraft arrived 9:05, 0:15, 20, 10 o'clock, right? I would like to know why we were late. As a matter of fact, as far as I remember, some aviation authorities, they are including as a requirements on-time performance.